Okay, let's rock this bad boy out. Match with this game. Boom. Alright. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back. Sorry I took so long, but stuff happened, but I'm finally back. And what better way to start with the next Sonic title? Sonic Superstars. You know what's interesting about this game is that for a while now I've had this thought about what if they took the classic stages from Sonic Generations and made it into a full-fledged game with proper physics, of course. And that's essentially what this game is. What do I think about it? Well, let's get into it. Takashi, Iizuka, and Sonic Mania lead developer Christian Whitehead were brainstorming ideas for the next 2D Sonic game. The former, however, didn't want to reuse the same pixelated graphics as Mania did and wanted to appeal to a broader audience. Despite numerous ideas including a 2.5D prototype, they agreed that none of them have worked and the two parted ways while still on good terms. During the pandemic lockdown, Iizuka had a Zoom chat with co-creator Naoto Oshima while Yuji Naka was locked away for reasons. When the two decided, hey, let's work on a new 2D Sonic game together. This would be Oshima's first time working on a Sonic game since Sonic Adventure. Technically, he served as a supervisor for Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Did I say that right? RZS would serve as the developer for this game, well known for Yoshi's New Island and Hey Pikmin. Two games that I have not played but didn't hear good things about them. Yeesh. So the story is that Dr. Eggman learns of a hidden treasure on the North Star Island and hires Fang the Hunter, who's a total sap for cold hard cash, and his gentle sidekick Trip, a newcomer to the series who the game makes absolutely no subtlety on her true alliance. In fact, after being abused by Fang for so long, she finally reveals herself to be a Sungazer lizard who turns into a badass dragon with the Chaos Emeralds. So she joins your side and you can play as her both in the main campaign and her own separate playthrough. She even has her own presence in the title screen once you unlock her. Aww. Her campaign is similar to Knuckles' story in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where it chronologically takes place after Sonic's story and is the hard mode of the game. I love Trip's character and hopefully she becomes a mainstay and returns to the series for future titles. She may be relegated to the classic series, but hey, that's fine. But back into the story, Eggman captures these strangely big animals that power up his new badniks. How the hell did these animals get so big? Jeez. Eventually Sonic and the gang learn of Eggman's plans and set out to stop the Mad Doctor once again. First off, let's talk about the presentation. Everything about this game looks gorgeous. The graphics, the colors, the character models, the level designs. This is one of the best looking games in the series. The characters are very expressive, the animations mimic the ones from the Genesis games, translating from 2D to 2.5D almost perfectly. Well, minus the victory poses, ruined forever! And the cutscenes are quite adorable. Especially the cute little moments with Amy and her friendship with Trip. The game oozes with charm and personality. The characters even have their own different skins, such as the Lego skins, which I don't personally care for, but it's nice that they're there. Classic Amy wearing modern Amy's dress, and even an early model of Sonic when he was conceptualized as a rabbit. Now as far as the gameplay goes, Sonic Superstar is pretty accurate to the Genesis games. The characters control, feel, and play how they did in the early 90s. Sonic still has the drop dash in Sonic Mania, Tails can fly and carry his buddies in co-op, Knuckles can glide and climb walls. In the case of Amy, she plays exactly how she did in Sonic Origins Plus, which was very obvious as it was testing waters for their new Sonic title. Out of all the playable characters, Amy is my favorite. She can double jump, making for some secure platforming, and with her hammer preventing badniks from hurting her. And while it's not as fast as Sonic, she has her own version of the drop dash, where she'll run and swing her hammer at enemies in her way and break through walls as well. Amy is just so damn cute. She's the heart and soul of the game and sees the good in the misguided. The best parts for me was the interactions between her and Trip. They truly do feel like they're the best of friends. A major difference between this and the older 2D titles is that there's no longer a life system, thank goodness. So you can die as many times as you like without worrying about a game over. Now, as the case with most modern Sonic side-scrollers, there are collectibles scattered throughout each level, though instead of something like red rings, we collect golden medals. These can be used at the shop to purchase different robot body parts for your BattleBot in the game's battle mode. The battle mode itself is pretty underwhelming. These consist of either collecting the most stars, zapping the competition, or surviving until the end. You can play both local or online, but I don't see this multiplayer holding anyone's attention. Why couldn't they just make it your standard Sonic multiplayer races from the previous games? That would have been a lot more fun. It feels like they've been slacking on Sonic multiplayer for years, and this would have been the perfect opportunity to make it good again. And I honestly did not care about collecting the gold medals. Some of them I only felt the need to get only to fill my kleptomania nature. In some stages there's a golden badnik that will give you 100 medals. I always encounter these guys by accident. Like every 2D Sonic game, special stages make a return. Multiple special stages actually. The ones that collect the Chaos Emeralds worked like it did in Sonic 3 and Sonic Mania, where you'll need to find a special ring and jump inside it. Truth be told, they're actually easier to find here than in those games. I've always preferred this method over getting 50 rings to get to the end or hitting a checkpoint. But you can also do the Sonic 2 method of collecting 50 rings and hitting a checkpoint to unlock these Sonic 1-like special stages, but without the physics. But your only reward is the golden medal. They're okay, but I think these drag on for too long. I usually don't bother with these personally. Keep in mind that you're only allowed 1 emerald per zone. I actually like the gameplay style of these special stages. It's a pretty cool concept. All you have to do is lock onto these blue spheres to pursue the Chaos Emerald. Some of the special stages have mine bombs which slow you down upon contact. Once you're close enough to lock onto the emerald, press the button to grab it. I would say that this is the easiest special stage in the series for me. The only one that gave me the hardest time was the green Chaos Emerald because it kept getting further away. This stage is where they introduce these weird springs which on your first time, you think using them to get higher would help you get the Chaos Emerald, but relying on them too much actually distracts you from reaching it. I actually had to look online on what to do because it was getting frustrating. Apparently all I had to do was hold left. I'm sure there was more to it, but I was just relieved to get that damn 5th Chaos Emerald. That one alone is probably why I'll never collect the Chaos Emeralds in this game again. There's also a blue ring where you're taken to these special stages, except you're collecting gold medals. As much as I loved Sonic Mania, Sonic Superstars had a lot more originality to its levels. Sure, none of the level themes are new. In fact, they're all amalgamations of levels from past games, but they change things enough and add new gimmicks to freshen up the experience. There's Bridge Island, which is your introductory Green Hill zone. A gorgeous looking level that looks like a fusion between Green Hill and Emerald Hill. Man, look at those waterfalls, they look beautiful. Although that giant robot fish at the end of Act 1 can really trip me up sometimes. Ha, get it? Trip? Okay, I tried. Speed Jungle looks like a nice cozy jungle level where you'll be doing some grinding on vines, riding plants up. I even like the second act where the gimmick is that it's dark and rainy and you need the butterflies to brighten up the level. Reminds me of that one level from Crash Bandicoot. Sky Temple. I was surprised to see that this level only had 1 act, which I'm fine with because the level itself was just okay. Reminds me of Sky Sanctuary from Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sky Canyon from Sonic Advance 2. Pinball Carnival. Looks colorful, but it's your standard Sonic Casino levels. Act 2 ramps it up a bit with these roller coasters, where you occasionally need to jump to another or else you'll fall to your death. I'll just say it right now, Lagoon City is the most beautiful looking water zone in a 2D Sonic game. It has your water slides, water cannons that sprays you upward. Being underwater looks beautiful. Sand Sanctuary Zone. It was okay. I like the bouncy snake loops. Here's a hot take. It's a better level than Sandopolis Zone. Actually, I don't think that's a hot take. This is another zone with only 1 act, which makes it tolerable. Press Factory. Act 1's gimmick is that there's a machine in the background that launches you into the air when it slams down, affecting your movement. The idea works, even if it is inconvenient. Act 2 on the other hand, I actually like the concept of this stage. Here you have Eggman's factory about to blow up with a time meter in the background. Throughout the level, you'll have to find and press these green switches to restart the timer, or else you face instant death when the factory blows up. I love the sense of urgency and panic it gives the player. The only thing I wasn't a fan of were these spinning orbs. In previous games, you can use gravity to your advantage and catapult yourself to where you want to go. But here it feels unwieldy as you have to use the analog stick to where you want to launch your character. Golden Capital. I like the golden aesthetic, but I wasn't really crazy about this stage. Cyber Station is a cybernetic level with great looking level design. I love how your character changes into a pixel look from time to time. I wasn't a fan of the controls for the jellyfish sections, and I got frustrated with the pixel mouse sections where you have to choose the right path, and if you mess up, you have to start again. Frozen Base Zone is a snow level in Act 1 but then turns into a fantasy zone for Act 2. Now I've never played a single game of Fantasy Zone in my life, but I dig the change of pace. Now for some odd reason, after I beat Cyber Station, it skipped over Frozen Base Act 1 and went straight to Act Tails, and then it took me to Act 2. So I went back to the hub world only to discover that Act 1 was completely skipped over. Huh. And finally there's Egg Fortress Zone. Oh god, this zone was hellish! There's so many traps, pits, enemies, fire, lasers, the works! At the end of Act 1, Eggman flips the switch reversing time. And in Act 2, you're playing the stage in reverse while time is rewinding backwards. Now I like this idea in practice, but in execution, it's a very janky level. The collision detection for some areas can be unfairly random. This is the level I died the most in, especially the rooms where the once rising platformers now drop like a rock. I hate these sections so much. There's also the addition of extra acts in between Acts 1 and 2. There's Act Fruit and character exclusive acts. Like gold medals, there's fruit scattered throughout the level. You'll need to collect these to access the fruit acts. I don't think they're mandatory, in fact some of these are just short fun little mini games. You just have to collect as many rings as you can to get to the treasure while avoiding a laser that follows you. They're little harmless fun, so I don't mind these, but I could also do without them. The character acts are solo acts where only the character is playable, no co-op included. These are really for story purposes, which I think is pretty cool. Act Sonic sees you making your way out of the jungle while being pursued by Fang. Act Amy takes place after Act 1 of Lagoon City, where Trip's trap failed to catch our heroes much to the anger of Fang and suffers a Wile E. Coyote predicament of backfiring on her. The stage opens up with her joyfully picking an apple with a little music note representing her happiness. Halfway through the level she meets a crying Trip who Amy adorably carries throughout, avoiding giant killer fruits. Okay, but this was the most adorable moment in the game for me. Seeing these two bond while braving through obstacles, and ending with Amy giving Trip the fruit at the end, really warms my heart. I wouldn't mind a spin-off based on these two. Act Knuckles is just more golden capital, so though he's quickly ambushed by Fang who steals the Chaos Emeralds from him. And Act Tails is more Frozen base until he gets to one of Eggman's bases. This is where he brainstorms and tinkers with the Eggmobiles, leading to Frozen Base Act 2. I love stuff like this as it helps tell the story through gameplay. Now I think it's pretty wild that it's taken 3 decades for the developers to come up with this idea, but each individual Chaos Emerald can grant you special abilities. They're not all great, but hopefully they'll implement this idea in future titles. The Blue Emerald gives you Avatar, which generates clones to collect items and nuke all enemies on screen. I usually like to save these for bosses just to help get in a hit or two. Can't get enough of me, can you, Eggman? The Red Emerald gives you Bullet, which turns you into a fireball and allows you to launch yourself in the air while altering where you want to shoot. I found this power up confusing at first, but then got used to it. Another useful power up against bosses. It works like the burst move from Sonic Colors DS. Next is Vision from obtaining the Purple Emerald. It reveals hidden platforms and items. This allows you to use the platforms to reach higher areas and collect extra rings. This is my least used power up. While I do think it's a neat idea, the game doesn't take much advantage of it. The Cyan Emerald gives you water, liquefying the character to allow them to climb up waterfalls and swim underwater without the fear of drowning. While it is situational, I think it's a cool ability in its execution. The Green Emerald grants you Ivy, which grows a beanstalk with leaves to use as platforms to reach higher areas. Interesting concept, I like it more than Vision. The Yellow Emerald gives you the ability Slow. It's exactly what it sounds like, you slow down time. There are certain points in the stage where you have to use it to get past these speedy blocks. This is probably the best power up to use against bosses, especially the later ones. And finally there's Extra by obtaining the White Chaos Emerald. This power up actually gives each character their own unique ability. Sonic performs a snappy homing attack, Amy throws hammers as if she's a hammer brother, Hammer Hedgehog, Knuckles throws out punches, Tails shoots out tornadoes, and Trip shoots out fireballs as if she's Fire Mario. Boy, looking at Amy and Trip makes you guys that say Sega does what Nintendo look pretty stupid, doesn't it? Why didn't they just call this power up Projectile? Because that's what you're doing, shooting projectiles. Extra just sounds lazy. And of course, once you collect all the Chaos Emeralds, you can transform into Super Sonic. Actually, all the characters have super forms. Well, sort of. Sonic and Trip are the only ones with legit super forms, with Trip being a badass dragon. Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, however, are just given super powers where they just glow. I guess it's not as bad as giving them barriers like in Sonic Heroes, but it's still insulting. So let's get into the negatives. Sonic Superstars integrates 4-player co-op, and it's a mess. The appeal of a Sonic game for many is that you get to run at high speeds as fast as you want. And I know co-op is the rage of today, but this package ultimately proves why I don't think co-op works for a Sonic game. Case in point, the camera. The camera doesn't always make up its mind on who it should focus on. You'd think it would focus on the lead player who's making progress, but no, it randomly snaps to any character even at the most inopportune moments, which hinders the progression. Co-op also exists in special stages. Each player has 3 attempts to tether off objects before switching to the next player. I find this a rather baffling design choice because if the other player isn't good at these stages, it could hinder your chances at reaching the Chaos Emerald. Though in the case of the 5th Chaos Emerald, I definitely blame the stage itself. Though we both managed to work together to get 1 Chaos Emerald, whether it was through luck or skill, I was just relieved to get it. The bosses are definitely the lowest point of the game for me. I like the ideas of these bosses as they're very creative, but I should stress that this game's bosses and mini bosses do not work like they did in the other 2D games where you could continuously bounce on them whenever you get the chance. They're similar to modern 2D Mario and Retro's Donkey Kong Country games where there's waiting involved, which normally isn't a problem until you realize there's no indication on when you can attack them. In the Sand Sanctuary boss, it took me a while to realize that Eggman was no longer gonna come into the foreground where I'm at. So I figured that I had to use these robots, but you can't jump on them because that's obviously not gonna hurt Eggman. You have to jump underneath the blue ones to knock them back at him because the red ones obviously have drills underneath them. There's a ton of padding in these bosses and the difficulty for them is extremely brutal. The Golden Capital City fight with Fang sucks. After you hit the dude once or twice, you literally have to spend the fight avoiding traps and obstacles before you can hit him again. The final bosses for each campaign, oh my god, what were they thinking? In the Egg Fortress fight, you have to be very quick to hit the blue missiles right back at Eggman. Obviously not in front of him because he'll deflect them, so you'll have to hit him from behind. And these bosses have many different phases. You have moments like these where you have to be quick enough to hit Eggman on the head. But then you have moments like these where he'll float you up in gravity and you have to avoid these electric balls. And this goes for Trip's story too, it's the hard mode of the game. Thankfully you don't have to get the Chaos Emeralds again with Trip. I used her super form as much as I could because I knew with this game's difficulty that I was gonna have so much trouble. And I was right. Most of the bosses are much harder here, especially the final Fang fight. Oh, look at this. What? Oh my god, really? What? This is literally the worst fight in the entire Sonic franchise ever. The last story has you facing off against a giant demonic purple dragon, which at the time of this review I still haven't beaten. I just kept getting frustrated. T-Lopes from Sonic Mania and series veteran Jun Sonoi both returned to compose the soundtrack for Sonic Superstars. The soundtrack for me was decent at best. Just like in Sonic Mania, T-Lopes' MIDI style fits the classical tone of the game. Jun Sonoi's tracks, however, they're just not very good. I think he should just stick to composing for the 3D games. Sonic Superstars for the most part is a solid 2D Sonic game. Visually it looks stunning from the character models, level design, and creative uses of the Chaos Emeralds. But the co-op is a mess and the bosses are just plain garbage. I'd say wait for a sale. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos to come. I'm BJsPool and I will see you guys later. Peace.